YouTube, I am back making some videos on the car. I had a little break, I haven't made any for a couple of weeks, and I get done a computer room tour. If you didn't watch it, go and watch it. But we're back doing some jobs on the Fiesta, and this is what we're doing. 25mm wheel spacer. Now if you remember back a while ago, I had the EBC big brake kit, eager to get it fitted, but we've had the issue of trying to make it fit with 15-inch wheels, and that's not EBC's fault. This kit is designed for bigger wheels, but I'm trying to put a square peg into a round hole. Some of you ask why not change to bigger wheels. Well, I've got 15s and I've got 16s. 15-inch tyres are much cheaper. It's about £200 a set of tyres cheaper, so I'm trying to keep the cost down. Now, to make the wheels fit, as you would have seen in the previous video, we need a 25mm spacer on the 15-inch wheel. 16-inch wheel was just a 5mm spacer. Logic would say go 16s. I know that, but I want to try and make the 15s work. If they don't work, then I've tried them now. What I want to say first before we get into it is putting a 25mm spacer on. Yes, there's a lot of negatives attached to it. Some positives, but also some negatives. Now, 2 words for you: scrub radius. I know you're going to put it in the comments, and yes, I'm very well aware of it. I didn't mention it in the video before. I pretty much know all the negatives, the positives, everything related to scrub radius. Feel free to comment below, add your thoughts. But I think when it comes to suspension tuning and geometry and stuff like that, I don't know everything, but it's kind of my nerdy subject. So even though I have mentioned it before, I pretty much know what there is to know about scrub radius. But we're going to try and see if it works. If it don't work, it doesn't work. What have we lost? Just a few quid. So what I did was I bought some cheap spacers. Someone who watched my video got in touch with me and said they had them hanging around and picked them up for peanuts. I didn't want to pay full price just for what is an experiment. So the plan is today we're going to put them onto the car. I've got my little dummy hub by us, so as you can see they fit tidy. These are longer studs, right, so ignore them. These are factory size studs. Now you can see, or you might not be able to see, but it's a fraction higher, so I'll have to take just a smidge off that, which I don't mind, because it's probably going to be like 1mm, half a mil, something like that. So what we're going to do now is get the car ready, go onto the car and see if the arches can cope with 25mm. That is the biggest factor. Yeah, let's go and give it a go. Right, so just to give you an idea of whether it could work just by looking at it, I don't know if you can see, but we got quite a bit of gap, yeah, and that's because I'm running so much camber. Now if I put this spacer here, give you that idea, you can see there's a chance we can make it work. Normally if you wasn't running so much camber you'd have no chance, but that's just down to the fact that that's about, it's over 3 degrees. I need to get it all reset up actually, the other side slightly less. But yeah, so that will give us an overall ET. The 16's at ET 38, so if you take 25 away from that, you get that ET 13, and the 15s are 35, so it would make it ET 10. Normally, no way. You'd never get that on you unless you're running a fair bit of camber, which I already am. So I think it can work, but what I'm going to do, I'll jack the car up, get the wheels off, and the one way to find out is put them on. Right, so with the spacer just loosely on, in case I have a flat edge, you see there we've got a little bit of rock in. So I think this is where a lot of people go wrong when they put spacers on. They don't even check this, and then he's stuck with a problem where the wheel actually sits on the bolt rather than flush on the spacer. So we're gonna have to take a fraction off. I'd say it's no more than maybe a millimeter, if that. So I'll get a grinder out, smooth them off, and then we'll make sure that they are a nice snug fit. One of the main things I should have mentioned actually is check your wheel and whether you need to grind your factory studs, because as you can see with this wheel, it's flush. But a genuine Ford wheel, for example, it's got pockets, so you wouldn't need to grind the studs on them because they'll fit in the pockets, but like I say, I've got to. Alright, so I'm going to use a flap wheel. What I've done is I put the 4 nuts on just so when we back them off it'll clean up the thread. We won't have trouble getting the bolts back on. So we're only going to smooth up the top, take as little off as necessary. Right, I put the 15 on because that's the one we're going to use with a spacer, and look at that, it has just done it with ease. It's not even poking. I'm pretty positive about that. Suspension's got to settle, I've got to roll the car, but what I'm going to do now, do the other side, and I think that will work. Well, both sides are on. I'm ready to go for a test drive. What do you think of that? Doesn't look out of the way too much if you ask me. I quite like the look. I'm pretty hopeful that we shouldn't have much rubbing, although I can't test it as hard as what I could on the track, granted. But we should get an idea, or I think that looks pretty decent. It makes it look like the back needs a bit of a spacer, but what we're going to do now is see if he'll pass the test drive test, because that's what matters more than anything really. Looks second, drivability first. Right, let's jump in, let's go for a ride. Right, so one thing just to mention, we're still running the 16s on the rear. We've only put the 15s on the front because it's pointless doing a full 15 swap. So it passed the test down the lane on a full lock turn. We haven't rubbed, so it's just a matter of what's it like when it's cornering. Now we will have some negatives. I'm not going to go through all of the scrub radius negatives, but one of them is increased torque steer, because you can have I'm going to have quite a significant positive scrub radius, which I can't do nothing about, but it is what it is. I did actually do a measurement of my scrub radius when I had the hard race ball joints on. I did my best effort in measuring it, and the hard race ball joints actually made the scrub radius quite a bit positive. But we are quite a lot wider now, so I mean compared to standard, we with the 15s on, we're something like 12, almost 13 mil just on the wheels wider. Add 25, so we're about 30. Let's call it 38 mil wider per side, and that's a lot. That really is a lot. Like I said, normally you couldn't dream of running that, but I think we're going to do it just because we got camber. If your car wasn't a track car, I'd say don't even attempt to do it. Put 16-inch wheels on and just run a 5 mil spacer. But like I said, at the moment I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and that's just my fault really. There is an easier way around it, but it's just a more expensive way. But there we are. I'm waffling on a bit. I'm just going to get some corners in now and see how it drives, but so far so good. To be honest, I've just done a couple of second gear pulls and a little bit of water on the ground then, and didn't torque steer, nothing really. It was really good. I've had worse on standard, so that surprised me. The other thing with scrub radius as well, it can affect your braking. If your scrub radius gets near 0, when you're hard braking, the car can wander left and right. Now I had a lot of that in my Focus on track, and it's worth noting as well, when I had my Focus ST170 track car, I was running Peugeot Citroen offset wheels, and they were like ET15, and I ran that for years, and that car handled amazing. But I did have the braking going left and right, but I learned to live with that. It wasn't much of an issue. It's not a definite you'll get that. It just depends how close you are to a zero scrub radius. But that car was phenomenal, and I know people are going to say, oh, you're going to burn up wheel bearings and stuff like that. I tracked that car for 6 years and never changed a wheel bearing. So yes, it does put extra load. I did say I wasn't going to go into all the details, but here I am. I find myself covering some of them. The other one is a wider track, softens your effective spring rate. It doesn't actually change the rate of the spring, but because it's a longer lever arm, but it's going to be marginal, and I don't mind that because I'm now running on the robot. I wasn't running before, so that'll make up for that easy. But yeah, so far so good. General driving now. We did a few dips in the road, everything's fine, but I'm definitely going to have to push it a little bit harder now and see what happens in some of the corners on the roundabout. So we'll give it a go, see what we can do. So that's it, my test drive is complete. I didn't rub, scrub once at all. It's been fine. But there's limits to how much I can test. I can only do the speed limits from the roundabout, some of the corners, and it's a bit damp today, so the car wasn't getting pushed. But I think worst case scenario, if it does rub on track, it's just going to be the arch liners, which is something we can live with. Definitely don't think it's going to be anything major. If I was going to have any major rubbing, something would have showed up by now, but just done a few miles and it was perfectly fine. The one little negative is the car is following cambers and dips in the road more than it did, but I expected that. I've been here before with running such a wide track. I know what to expect, but I rarely drive the car. Most of my time spent driving this car is to a circuit and on a circuit, so there's compromises you can live with. Any of the negatives that come with it, wearing bearings, blah blah blah, we'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But I think for now, I am going to go with the 15s. The spacers need a bit of cleaning up and a bit of tidying up. We may look at using them, but we'll just see how that goes. But that's a positive result. Now I know I can fit the brakes and I can run them on track with 15. So I need to get on the brakes soon. The other thing is, remember the knocking noise I was having? Well, I haven't sorted that yet. I did the track day weeks and weeks ago. I've done absolutely nothing on the car until today. I mean, I haven't even emptied my stuff out. My helmet's still in here, sandwich pack. It's just I only took all the tools and tyres out of the back today just to do this, and it's been ages since I've done that track day. But here we are. I'm happy with that. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and what can I say? Nothing other than I'll catch you on the next video, and bye.